All right, Julius Caesar people, let's look at some speeches. Okay, here's a great one from Brutus. This is a perfect sort of textbook soliloquy. He's trying to think through some issues, right? Basically, we catch him in the middle of his thought, right? He's in the orchard. He's sort of talking to his servant to say, tell me what time it is. I don't know how they have clocks in ancient Rome, but they do. And then he turns back to us as the servant leaves. It must be by his death. Okay, so we started off with a bang, right? Obviously, he's been thinking about what he and Cassius were talking about, how Caesar has overstepped, right? He's gone too far. He is too powerful. So it must be by his death. And for my part, I know no general cause to spurn at him, but for the general. Okay, and this is imperative for understanding Brutus, I think. For his part, he has no personal cause to hurt him. To spurn at someone is to kick them. So he has no reason to hurt him, but the general cause. So the only reason to hurt Caesar is for the people, not for his own feelings, right? And that's sort of Brutus to a T, right? He wants to make sure this is not about him, it's about Rome. Okay. And so now he has to walk through it and make sure that he's right. He's testing his own logic, right? He would be crowned. How that might change his nature. There's the question. Okay, so already I have no problem with Caesar, he says, but you crown him and that could change a lot. It is the bright day that brings forth the adder, and that craves wary walking. Crown him, that. And then, I grant, we put a sting in him, that at his will he may do danger with. The abuse of greatness is when it disjoins remorse from power. Okay, so if we crown him, we are giving the snake power, and that power could sting us, right? And that's completely true. You give someone additional power, invariably you're adding risk to a situation, right? Okay, and then he says, really, it's not so much about being king, but that oftentimes when people become king, when they become great, they disjoin remorse from power. Now, remorse is a really interesting word, right? What do you think is going on there? My interpretation is conscience, and that's in a lot of footnotes I've seen too. But the idea of having feeling and sympathy and empathy and being able to be sorry, right? All those kinds of things. Those have to be together with power. And to speak truth of Caesar, I have not known when his affections swayed more than his reason. Okay, and so now he's being very honest with himself, right? And saying that Caesar has not to this point ever showed himself to be irrational or to be a bad leader. And again, that's correct. At this point, he was the best general they'd ever seen, right? But okay, watch him sort of go back and forth, right? He's trying to talk himself into this, but he's trying to be logical too. But 'tis a common proof that lowliness is young ambition's ladder. Ooh, so all this humility that everyone's seen in Caesar, that's just an act. And it's the ladder that helps young, ambitious people climb, where to the climber upward turns his face, but once he attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks in the clouds, scorning the base degrees by which he did ascend. So Caesar may. See what's changed here? He's sort of hypothesizing about a possible future that he has no idea about, right? He's saying it's always the case, one of those like they always say, that people who want power act humble, and then when they get power, they forget all about being humble, right? So Caesar may or may not, right? That's a question word. Then, lest he may, prevent. Okay, that's a dangerous game, right? It reminds me of, this is horrifying, but it reminds me of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, when they're going to send up these giant airships that can solve problems before they happen. And Captain America has a real problem with that because until the crime is committed, people shouldn't be put on trial, right? And so that's exactly what Brutus is saying here, though. He's like, well, we could solve this problem before it even happens. But that's a problem, right? And then he starts to think, okay, how can I make this happen? He realizes this is a dangerous argument for the same reasons that Captain America says. And since the quarrel will bear no color for the thing he is, fashion it thus. All right, so since no one would believe that Caesar's a tyrant yet, because he's not, Let's fashion it thus. That's a great word, right? Fashion it means to sort of create it, to make it with your hands. But also fashion has an inherent sense of changeability, doesn't it? And that's kind of scary when we're talking about life and death. That what he is, augmented, would run to these and these extremities. Great line. So what he is one thing, but once you augment him, and that's a nice fat chewy word, isn't it? To augment is to literally make bigger. So everything he is with power equals extremity, right? And so, therefore, this is the argument he's going to make to people, think him as a serpent's egg, which hatched would, as his kind, grow mischievous and kill him in the shell. Wow. All right, so he wants to convince the people of Rome that Caesar is like a snake in an egg. Once that egg hatches, he's going to be a snake, and snakes are snakes. There's never a nice, kindly snake, right? All snakes, all kindred, that's what kind stands for there. All kindred snakes grow mischievous. Therefore, we must kill him in the shell. Now, this is quite a piece of logistical backbending, right? He's talking himself into something, even as he's trying desperately to make it not about him. But he's really, in some ways, damning Caesar before Caesar is given a chance to prove himself, and yet he's considered a hero in many ways because the inherent problem with power is that it often leads to abuse, right? And so here's the great dilemma for Brutus and his followers. Okay, I hope this is helpful. On to the next.